Welcome to Vancouver Carpenter, you guys. So today's video is about can you router out a box with a plug in it. So I want to be really clear here. This is not should you router out a box with a plug. It's just can you. So in my experience, yes you can. And I actually tried to film this video before and I did a more complicated one with 2 plugs. It worked out pretty well, but I had just the tiniest bit of blowout and I thought, all right, well, we better refilm it again. So this time we're gonna do it with 1. First thing we gotta do here is get this thing ready to actually be cut out. So you can also do this with a jab saw and just make your measurements and cut it out, and it's the same basic principle. Except one of them's a little more risque. Okay, so first things first, obviously you've turned your power off. But now, while you're here, why not put some electrical tape around these little bolts on the side? It's going to stop anybody in the future from being able to get electrocuted here. Okay, so we're going to need to leave this hanging like this. All right, so the next step is to take measurements of where your box is. So if you were just going to cut it out with a jab saw like this, obviously at this point, you would now just take your exact measurements. Now I'm going to make them rough. So 33.5 to the center of the box. I'm going to write it right here where I can find it, 33.5. And I already know that all of these are 14 inches off the floor, but because I'm going to lift my board up a little, I'm going to go 13.5. All right, next thing I'm going to do is put my measurements on the sheet. So 33.5 over, 33.5 over, 13.5 up. That's right there. Right now, I'm going to cut an opening that's going to be big enough to pull the plug through, but not big enough for, not overcut for the box. All right, now I got to hang the sheet. Let's get it more or less lined up where it's going to go. And then we got to pull this through. So whether you're using a jab saw or a router or whatever you're doing, this part is more or less the same. You got to pull the plug through. There we go. So now I'm just going to focus on getting my sheet installed, tacked in place nicely. Let's start at the bottom down here. There we go. Okay, now have it tacked. I now have it tacked in place enough that it's not going to move on me. And the good news is I didn't overcut any of it. Okay, I don't have any screws anywhere near where this is because it's going to make it blow out. We don't want too much pressure from the screws sucking the board in. I can even see that all I need to do is start right here. So I've got this pulled out of the way. Okay, that one worked out perfectly. All right, so as you can see, it does really nice results. So the reason that I did this instead of using a jab saw is just because, I can use the jab saw, but there's way more opportunities for error when I'm measuring. So where am I gonna measure from? 7 feet up to the ceiling and then down to this box, or am I gonna measure from the floor and hope that my deduction for the amount of space I left for the drywall lift to be there? Anyways, you guys get the point. It's just more complicated. So if you can learn how to use a router properly, then doing it this way, gives you some pretty darn good results. As long as, of course, you've shut off that power, you're being really careful. And now there's enough board on here for these tabs to grab nicely too. Oh yeah, there it is. I definitely don't recommend leaving the plugs in place and routering over the tabs, because what happens is, well, of course, there's no drywall behind the tabs for them to grab, and it just makes it a bit more of a pain for the electrician. So it's important to know what the next guy's got to deal with. Again, I'm going to leave this up to your discretion what you choose to do. This is not should you router out a box with a plug in it. It's can you. Yes, you can. The results speak for themselves. I just want to say thanks for watching Vancouver Carpenter. Till the next video. Maybe someday there'll actually be some carpentry in it. Once I finish the boarding and the taping, and hopefully I do the finishing for this job. We'll see. Then we can get some trim going on. I'm still talking. Couldn't tell you why. Hopefully you guys are doing well.